Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Darn it, I see I screwed up yesterday in failing to use the term penultimate for January 30. 'Tis the penultimate day of January 2024. I love that word. I don't know why. You don't get to use it much, and I screwed up. Anyway, so today is January 31, which I guess must be the ultimate day. I don't know. Enough of that. How you doing? Glad to be here with you. So mainstream media is now all over the Taylor Swift, Kelsey as CIA operatives or Biden operatives more. Unbelievable. Front page, New York Times. I mean, we've been in stupid for a long time. I mean, I remember when I first saw about QAnon and what people believed about that. I thought, how can something this stupid get traction, as they say? But boy, did it. And now this, stupid. But the stupidest part of it, I think was clearly summarized by a guy named, let me find him, a guy named, well, I don't have a clue. I don't have his name. Damn it. I hate not giving credit. Well, I don't have it. Anyway, here's what he said. Imagine you are a political movement, right? The idea being you want to get your guy, I'd say, or gal, elected, right? And in order to do that, you want to appeal to people. The more, the merrier. The most being the Holy Grail. Then your guy wins. And this guy, who I cannot tell you who, says this. From a bird's eye view, the state of affairs among MAGA media diehards is remarkable. This is a group of Americans who actually purport to boycott Disney, the world's preeminent entertainment company, also to boycott Bud Light, once America's most popular beer, and let's not leave out Target, the quintessential brick and mortar shopping destination, and they boycott Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company that produced the life-saving COVID-19 vaccines. And, of course, they're now down on Major League Baseball. Why was that? Can't remember what got them ticked off about baseball, which is the nation's supposedly favorite pastime, which I don't think is true anymore. And now he says Taylor Swift, a generational icon and one of the most successful musical artists of all time. There's something striking about watching the far right tying itself in knots and attacking Swift and her boyfriend that demonstrates how badly the far right media has alienated itself from most of America. It's not a winning strategy. It's a strategy to all Americans together in being stunned at your stupidity. stupidity. But if you think about it, that is what Trump's Republican Party does all the time. Abortion, right? One of the things is that, according to one of these MAGA nuts, Loomis, she says Travis and Taylor are all about weaponizing the abortion issue for Biden. This stupid, this level of stupid. And I mean, I think it's just for attention, right? Is that pretty much what it's all about? Because the people who put this stuff out, from Fox News hosts to all the other nitwits, they live by attracting attention. And their leader, that's his playbook as well. Attract attention. It doesn't matter if you're being outrageous. In fact, it helps if you're being outrageous. It helps if you're saying things that are astonishing, doing things that are not normal. This is what attracts them. But if you're trying to win a general election, I would argue that this level of stupid is stupefyingly nuts. Okay, that's all I'm saying on it, honest. You know, we're in one of those situations where if I now talk about this stuff, I am just doing the clickbait thing too. It's what we're all doing now. We're talking about this stupid stuff. And then we'll move on to some other stupid stuff. Hate being party to it. Okay. And Groundhog Day again. Yeah, so it's what, February 2nd? That's Thursday? Oh, no, it's Friday. Oh, good. I won't be here to have to deal with it. I came upon an interesting factoid, however, in my reading today about where the hell did this stupid idea of pulling some poor hibernating animal out of its slumbers to supposedly predict whether or not spring was on its way. It turns out it came from a similar German tradition that involved badgers or bears. Good God. So the Germans, I guess, used to poke a hibernating bear. Not a good idea. Or for that matter, a badger. And I know about badgers because my home state, Wisconsin, is the badger state. Why? I don't know. But badgers are one of the meanest. You do not ever want to poke a badger. Just saying. Groundhogs, on the other hand. So I do want to give this to the folks in Punxsutawney. They're at least smarter than the Germans, or they improved upon. They improved upon this German custom by thinking, I don't think we want to like pull a bear out of hibernation or a badger. How about a groundhog? In my obit, I want somebody to note that one of my greatest accomplishments as a television feature reporter in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I've said this before, but I do mean it sincerely, is avoiding ever covering this nonsense. I mean, this is the kind of story that a reporter like I was would definitely do. A feature story. And I never did. Thank God. Okay. Not that I wouldn't have had fun with it. I mean, but you have fun in not covering it in a, yeah, I mean, never mind. Okay. Now, I saw this on social media. Is this true? I wasn't unable to see if this was true, but I imagine it is because of all the detail in this. It says here that a Pennsylvania man beheaded his father, who worked for the federal government, and showed his father's severed head while ranting in a YouTube video about the need for revolution against Biden's regime and the army of illegal immigrants. What I'm seeing is that apparently this guy and his father's severed head were on YouTube, where he had put it, for where I am right now, for 6 hours today, with people saying, God, have you seen? And it 6 hours before YouTube apparently took it down. Now, I think that is true, but I have not seen any mainstream media reportage on it. So I'm wondering. I hate this new world we live in, where you don't know anything. That anything you're seeing is in fact true or not. And I also want to thank Donald Trump in part for that, and the technological geniuses that are changing our world at such a dizzying pace that next to nobody can keep up. I'm being told by Margaret, and Margaret, I don't take it personally. I don't know if you're a reliable source. Margaret says, yes, it's true. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Well, there's another, at least that's one Trump voter who won't be able to vote, right? I mean, he's got to be convicted first and put in jail. Well, he can't, then he won't be able to vote, right? Generally, I'm for people in prison being able to vote, but this guy, no. And speaking of the technological geniuses, God, this Musk thing of, he's always up to something. I mean, and up to tons of things. And this has to do with that Neuralink thingamajig, brain implant that he's working on. God, so they've finally, and the FDA has green lit it. And it's not as if people haven't had chips put in their brains for various reasons in attempts to, connect them to a device like a computer or a phone. And Neuralink, though, is a business, a Musk business, that apparently uses a much more invasive process than some of the other technological geniuses busily working in this field, because it aims to transfer data from the brain, the human brain with the chip, to a computer much more rapidly. And in Musk's thing, and they have implanted it for the first time in an unidentified human. And we haven't identified the human, obviously, or know how he or she is doing. But this person had the device sewn into the surface of their brain during and here's the part that just blew me away, because in my dystopian imaginings, I imagine this is just the beginning, that we're going to have chips put in us to do this, to do that, because being human, I guess, is just so boring. Being human is just so, yesterday. Being human is, on those lists that they put out at the end of the year, in and out. Being human is out. Being partially cyborgized or having chips implanted in you is in. And this will only grow. There's no doubt about it. But the one little item, it was just mentioned in passing, a phrase in part of a sentence that blew me away, is when they're sewing this thing into the surface of the brain, which they've done now. The surgery is performed by a robot. It says right here, and that just, I'm sorry, it just chills me. It says right here, I think I got this from the Washington Post, the device is sewn into the surface of the brain during a surgery conducted by a robot. I mean, look, I'm always looking at the negatives of these things. The positives here are obvious. To allow people who cannot speak to speak rapidly, to allow an immediate sort of interface from if you can't move your arms or your legs, but if you just, what this is ultimately trying to do is you just think, I want to move my leg, and it moves. What? Anyway, that's why all these companies are, that is amazing, because it could really help people who have disabilities or challenges that make their lives difficult. But this technological stuff is always a slippery slope. Musk has said that this chip that they've now put in a person will initially, yes, be used by people who have lost the ability to use their limbs. But eventually, we want it to go further. And that's where it just never stops. He then, goes off on a thing about it could help the blind to see. It could help the deaf to hear. I don't know, but some ethicists are a little queasy about where this kind of thing can lead, because most of these companies now are focused on these wonderful therapeutic treatments. But Musk and others, he's talked in much greater, he's talked about, one quote of his is that this can put humans on a path to symbiosis with artificial intelligence. In other words, I guess at some point you won't even have to go to school. Instead of going to school, you'll just have an implant. And anything, it's like you'll have Wikipedia implanted in your head. Musk has said he'd be willing to have one implanted. Meanwhile, the ethicist, one ethicist in particular, said, you know, a society where some people are given some cognitive enhancement and others cannot have that cognitive enhancement, either because of cost or whatever, that could create a kind of division among humans. We got your ordinary old kind of humans here, and we got your technologically enhanced ones here. I don't know. And of course, technology is outpacing any ability by regulatory agencies or the legal community or political community to get ahead of it. And yet, as I said, there's some real positives. Even this guy said, you know, you can get a gloomy lawyer like me moaning on about the ethics of it, but it is important to remember the enormous upsides that neurotechnology might alleviate quite a lot of human suffering. Yeah. And it could cause quite a lot of human suffering too. I guess it all depends on which side you're going to end up on. God. So, that actually makes me want to talk about a piece that I read some time ago that I just haven't found reason to bother you with. It was headlined "The Tyranny of Convenience." And it seems to me that, you know, this constant attempt to make things better, bigger, faster, to make humans, you know, with chips who will immediately know. It just, my sense has always been to what is, I mean, really, why? What's the rush? I don't quite get it. What's the destination? And this article I read was written by somebody who has a lot of the same concerns. Not that it matters, because he and I, his name is Tim Wu, are, you know, on the losing end of this argument. Convenience is, he says, the most underestimated force in the world today. And I would argue it has retrained us to expect that whatever it is we desire, whatever it is we want, can be obtained with nowhere near the effort that it used to take, and with speed that would be remarkable, right? We expect that now. We have incredible colossuses of monopoly like Amazon who have fed this change. You want something, they'll give it to you now. So the idea of taking any time to get to something you desire is, in our culture now, thought of as, whoa, why would you do that? I mean, you don't go out and hunt for your dinner. You just go to the grocery store. Or better yet, you have the grocery store, deliver the meat to you. It's not something that we think about, like, what is this doing to us? But I recall telling you something that happened to me about 2-3 years ago when I was driving in my car, and I was way over on like Wexfordish area, out of my zone, and I got lost, and I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my GPS. I didn't have that convenient gadget that would say, calm down, and immediately show me a map of how to get back. And after an initial, panic, I didn't panic. It wasn't like I was going to starve to death or be eaten by wolves. It was just this sense of, my God, I don't know where I am. And then I realized that that's the way I lived my life for most of it. Not sort of knowing how to get to where I was going. And, I did just fine. And that day I did just fine. And I felt a sense of such accomplishment. This is so pathetic. A sense of accomplishment when I found my way back. Because I did it by using my brain. And it felt good. It wasn't as quick. That's true. But I had agency. I wasn't just this receiver of information, of goods, of whatever. But that's what we are now. We just receive. One of the guys who co-founded Twitter said, convenience decides everything. Convenience seems to make our decisions for us, trumping what we like to imagine are our true preferences. Easy is better, easiest is best. And I got to tell you, as a value system, that's bullshit. And it doesn't make for better people. It makes for petulant, impatient, spoiled brats with flaccid brains and thinking ability. And I see that it is all too human for us now, knowing it's possible to, just you can get something immediately, then get it. I had a friend once, and this has to be 20 years ago now, 15 years ago, where she said to me, it's just when you could start Googling things immediately, and she said, I just feel a need to push against this. I mean, she's since given up, obviously, long ago, but push against this. And she said to me, she had vowed that if she had a question about something, a question she wanted answered, that she would do what she used to do back in the day. She would seek out information by going to the library. Well, obviously, that's not something, that seems absurd now. But if we let this cultural virtue of living in this day and age, the virtue of convenience, if we let that be the be-all and the end-all. We surrender a lot of our own individual human stuff that's important. And every time something convenient comes along, there are people who resist it. The Luddites. And I want to say that I do have some Luddite in me. I mean, because and now especially, because I see a threat to my sense of what being human is. And being alive and to be human means to struggle, doesn't it? Being human doesn't mean lying on some bed of roses where everything you want comes and drops in your lap. God, what an awful thought. To me, it seems awful. I like the idea of a journey, right? I mean, I've often heard people say, right, life is not a destination, it is a journey. Well, a journey implies, that you move and act, and then something happens maybe to you, and that changes your journey. I like the idea of things being difficult because it helps us grow as humans, as people. Anyway, this guy says, we are willing to pay a premium for convenience more than we often realize we are willing to pay. And I mean, this goes on and on and on. I just like the fact that somebody was writing a rather long piece about something I just sort of inherently am feeling, but haven't necessarily been able to elucidate. He says being a person is only partly about having and exercising choices. It is also about how we face up to situations that are thrust upon us, about overcoming worthy challenges and finishing difficult tasks, the struggles that help make us who we are. What happens to human experience when so many obstacles are removed? I think it's a question that we should ask. This cult of convenience that we now live within refuses to acknowledge that difficulty and struggle are absolutely foundational features of being human. I've got a caller. It's probably a human. Hello?
Hello.
Are you a human? Hello?
Yes, human.
Okay.
Human, not a robot. Anyway, I just wanted to say, I always thought this, but we were never designed for the planet Earth. I really don't think we are. I don't think, and think about it, if we didn't have medicine that we made, we'd all be probably dead by some virus or something, which we may in the end anyway. But I always thought we weren't designed for the planet Earth. I don't know what, or is it our system? I don't know. Even the way we work, everything we do, I just think I think we got it all fucked up. Pardon my language. I never thought it was right.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know where we're supposed to be, but we've sure done a job on this planet. Yeah.
Yes. I don't
and on
know.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that intelligence stuff. I think we got so many other things to worry about. I think that we might not even be here to worry about that. I mean, all of us. I just the way things are going anymore in the future. I don't know.
I hear you.
You know what I mean? It's just all this war stuff and that. I mean, eventually something's gonna. I don't know. I don't want to.
Well, I mentioned yesterday that I woke up and the first thing I said to my dog was, "Let's see if World War III has started." I'm not kidding. I have never lived at a time when that tinderbox seemed so possible, and I am worried. But hey, it doesn't matter, because if I want anything, I just can get it today from Amazon. I am happy.
And I guess we went through with the Cold War and everything. So I don't know.
Well, yes, we got out of that one.
I think the people got crazier. I don't know. It just seems like...
No, people are people.
People are the
always
same,
have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're no different than the cavemen.
I don't like them, but I always did think they were a deterrent for, massive wars and stuff. But I don't know. Now it makes you wonder. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. I mean, and this guy in North Korea, I think he's a big bluffer because he's not getting any attention. So he's going to spout his mouth. And Iran's the same way, but you just don't know. You don't know.
No, you just don't know. One little false move by one little idiot human, and the whole thing can go up. So, yeah, that's it. Now, okay, listen, this is taking a dark turn.
Oh, yes.
All right, well, then go away.
Okay. I'll see you then. Okay.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I mean, the sky's blue today. I'm going to enjoy that part. I really just wanted to put that out there about this convenience thing. It worries me. I guess people think that like struggle's a bad thing. It isn't. How do you ever have a sense of accomplishment? How would you ever have that feeling, that joyous, wondrous, proud feeling of having done something, if you don't put the work in, if you don't struggle? Now, granted, I mean, you don't have to struggle about everything in life, obviously. This is where living as we do now, I mean, my God, there are things available to us very quickly. So we don't have the kind of struggles that humans, 3,000 years ago had. But if we take away all of, I worry about, the Googling, which I do too. I just don't think, well, as I said, it's okay. We'll all end up with, not us. I mean, not me. I'm too old. But, 3 generations down, again, I'll say, why go to school when you can just have a computer put in your head? And that's assuming that schooling is about, sticking facts in your head, which in part it is, but that's not the biggest part of what it is. I always thought a good education is about knowing how to think, knowing how to problem solve, being smarter in your struggles. Anyway, this guy, Tim Wu, who, by the way, is a professor of law at Columbia, and he wrote a book called The Attention Merchants, The Epic Struggle to Get Inside Our Heads. Like a good one. So he ends thusly. So let's reflect on the tyranny of convenience. Try more often to resist its stupefying power and see what happens. We must never forget the joy of doing something slowly and something difficult. The satisfaction of not doing what is easiest. The constellation of inconvenient choices may be all that stands between us and a life of total, efficient conformity. A robot life. So, there's that. I've wanted to share that with you for a long time, and today it just seemed to come up. Oh, God. What else I got here? So the other day I was talking about all those crows. They were having their afternoon convention on my street, and it was so loud. It was deafening. The sound of literally 1,000 crows all what just unbelievably deafening. And I said, the collective term for a bunch of crows is a murder of crows. And I can't imagine the derivation of that. Like, why would it be a murder of crows? I said I thought it would be better to be, having endured it, a cacophony of crows. But today, I just happened to see Merriam-Webster on social media put this out. And it said, here are some of our favorite collective names for animals. And the first one is a murder of crows. Well, all right, fine. But some of them are just perfect. What's a bunch of penguins called? It's perfect. A tuxedo. A tuxedo of penguins. The crocodile one's good too. A basque of crocodiles. Because, you can imagine crocodiles just like lying there in the sun. A basque of crocodiles. Giraffe got a good one. A tower giraffes. And this one I knew of. A parliament of owls. They're considered wise. I guess you want to hope your parliaments are wise. This is great. A cackle of hyenas. And some of these others I don't get, but whatever. A destruction of cats. A smack of jellyfish. Okay. An ambush of tigers. Who came up with these? How do you, if you come up with this, get it recognized so that that's what it is? And Merriam-Webster puts it in its dictionary. I actually have a book, if I turn my head around here with my bookshelf, that is a book of, here it is. Oh, how wonderful. There's also a wisdom of wombats. What? But I have a book that's titled An Exaltation, excuse me, I'm getting it off my shelf, An Exaltation of Larks. And this is a compilation by James Lipton. He's the guy who had that show. Didn't he have a show where he interviews, he's I don't know. But he put this together. And I was just looking at his picture on the back. Man, he was so young. So this is different. But it does, I guess this book does go in. You know what? I'll look at it and find out how you get these things. Like who came up with a school of fish? That's something that we all, or a pride of lions. A bevy of beauties. I don't know. God, there's some wonderful things in here. Anyway, so there. You got me. I'm going to sit here and read a book. Kurt Vonnegut said of this book, this gave me a chortle of laughs. And there are also, as one broods upon his sidling agglomerations, glints of surprising suggestion, peepholes opening into poetry. I'll have to read that. I've had it, but I've never read the small print. I just paged through it looking at the, what's the noun for a bunch of. Speaking of reading, I read so much, and one of the things I do to get away from all of the news stuff, the worldly stuff I have to read, is I like to read fiction. I'm not a big reader of nonfiction because I feel I do so much of that just in terms of current events. But so I'm always looking for good fiction to read. And I just, I plow through one book after another. I have friends who are always showering books on me. And I just hit a wall about 3 months ago. And every book I picked up, I couldn't finish. I somehow was incapable of. One was so beautifully written, but it was taking me into a world I didn't want to go. A world that made me so unhappy. And it was real. It was like taking me into a world of, opioid addiction. It was a fiction, but whoa, amazing book. And I'm like a third of the way through it, and I just couldn't anymore. I couldn't do it. So, live from the studio, the Across studio, live from the Actors Studio. That's it. That's James Lipton. Thank you. As usual, Milton. I got a call. Hello.
Hello, Lynn Cullen. Oh, there's the beep. Hello, Lynn Cullen Live.
Hi.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very good. I was going to call you my cyborg friend because you do remember you have a pacemaker.
I do. I have a pacemaker, and I have other I have screws and bolts all over the place. Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if the metal counts as, but the pacemaker might.
Yeah, I think the pacemaker might, but it's not messing with my head. I don't care if it wants to mess with my heart. I don't want anything messing with my head.
Oh, but the heart and the mind are so together in poetry, at least. But the reason that spurred me to call was your groups of animals. And I think I've told you before that turtles and tortoises are my spirit animal. And really? The word for, slow and steady wins the race. The word for a group of tortoises is called a creep. A creep of tortoises. Now, I wish you could check your book and see if that bears out, but that's what I've always heard. And it came from some sort of sea thing when they used to put turtles in a bag and then eat them on the boats or something terrible that I wanted to blank from my mind. But it's called a creep of tortoises.
Okay, I'm not seeing tortoises in here, but I'm seeing turtles, and maybe that'll be a creep too. Well, let me go. Okay. Page 62. Okay, it says...
I can just Google it.
No, don't.
I'm kidding.
No, this says a bale of turtles.
Okay, that'll be turtles, but there are tortoises too.
Tortoises, no, and I don't see tortoise in here. Why, this book is a bunch of crap. I love it. Yours is perfect. That's perfect, isn't it? It is.
I love it. And actually, tortoises are very solitary and peripatetic, so they very rarely travel in a group. So if you see a creep of tortoises, you might want to, maybe it's the apocalypse, who knows?
Yeah, because they don't pal around. Okay. Hey, you know what? Listen, I just, you forced me to go to the index of this book, and some of the nouns that they have in here that you can look up what the collective is are just amazing. There must be a collective noun for tag team wrestlers.
No.
Well, it says so right here.
Well, sure, there might, I guess. Or speaking of that, I know that you and your son for a while. Well, your son,
yes,
and
really
by you went to see the wrestling things for a while. We're into it.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to see this movie, The Claw, about the Von Erich family. I'm not sure when it's going to come out or streaming, but I can't wait.
I have to tell you, my son and I actually watched a documentary of that family. And I was so blown away by the horror of that family, the father who sacrificed his sons. This is it's a true story of this crazy man who made all his sons be professional wrestlers. And it destroyed them, killed them, some of them, and destroyed them. I don't think I could bear watching the movie. The documentary was horrific enough. Speaking of wrestling, I had brunch the other day with a guy who used to produce wrestling matches in the area. And
Daryl Grandy?
Really? You say Daryl Grandy? No, he worked with Daryl. No, he worked with Daryl.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go on.
No way. How do you? Daryl Grandy used to be my producer at WPTT.
I know. Yeah, he was a huge
he was
fan
involved.
Too. Yeah. I've known him for many, many years. And someone brought him to one of our shows, and I said, "You're Doug's producer and Lynn's producer." I thought he was a celebrity to me, and still is anyway. But I'm sorry. Isn't that company going bankrupt? No, I'm sorry.
This guy's name is Andrew. I'm blanking on his last name. Andrew. I'm gonna get it here because he's Andrew Lazarchik. And I ended up having brunch with him. I won't go into why. And I said, "What are you doing now?" And do you know what he does? He makes the belts, the champion belts for wrestling and other things. That's what he does. He quit the regular job he had because he started making so much money doing that.
Talk about a niche. Talk about a niche market. That and a great talent too. Can you imagine? Hey, look at that gigantic, absurdly gaudy belt. I made that.
That's right. He lives in
those belts.
He lives in Latrobe, and Gigi wants me to tell you that your caller is correct. The term for a group of tortoises is creep.
Oh, good.
Isn't that nice?
To know, because I love it. It is beautiful.
It's perfect.
And it's a beautiful day. I hope you have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you.
We sure went all over the place in a few minutes there. We did start off and end with creep, though. So good job.
We did.
Thank you very much.
We came full. Thank you. Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Yeah, we came full circle. Anyway, so before the creep of tortoises, I was telling about how I was having trouble reading, and every book I picked up, I just thought, no, I just can't. So I thought I want to escape. I don't know. So I decided these are all current fiction. I thought, why not go back to tried and true classical piece of fiction that stood the test of time, that you haven't read, or that you read so long ago you can't even remember. And so I just, again, went up to my own bunch of books here that I have books in every room, but I went here because I know there are some books on my shelf here that I've carried around for years. I mean, almost my entire life, intending to read that I never did. And I found one and I pulled it out. It looks like a really, it's an old book. And the title is The Mayor of Casterbridge. And it is a novel by the great English author Thomas Hardy, who wrote in the 1800s. And I had read 2 of his books, Tess of the D'Urbervilles and Far from the Madding Crowd. Those get made into movies all the time. And I thought, The Mayor of Casterbridge, okay, I'll start reading that. And guys, whoa. Oh, man. In the first chapter, the 2 people you've been introduced to, a man and his wife, the guy gets drunk and sells her to some sailor who's just there. That's the beginning of the book. And you can tell, I could not put it down. And the book is just, I mentioned to my brother last night that I had picked it up. And he said, oh my God, that is my favorite Thomas Hardy book. Oh my God, it's like King Lear. And I thought, yeah, I could tell that. It's going into a dark place, I can see. But the brilliance of the depictions and the brilliance of the writing and the fact that so many of the words are, you don't know. Some because they're archaic now, but the descriptions and I am just in heaven. And so I'm just saying, and then here's the part that blew me away. When I opened the book, on that cover, the what is that called? Is that on the front cover, the inside of the front cover, the person whose book it was had scribbled their name in pencil. And the name scribbled there, I recognized the handwriting, was Norman Miller, my father. And under his name were his fraternity letters. So this book that I'd carried for so long was my dad's when he was in college. And as I read it, I see places where he has bracketed a certain paragraph with pencil, again, not wanting to screw the book up, that he obviously thought was important. And there have been a few places where I found him writing little things that I can barely, it's so small. And the fact that in my hands is his book that my wonderful, wonderful father had in his hands when he was 18, 19. There's something so powerful to me about it. And I am loving it. Just saying. Yeah. Well, I think that's it, guys. Hey, thank you all for your contributions. Margaret, Milton, Gigi. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I guess that's it. That's some blue sky. I think I might have to venture into that. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be back tomorrow. Hope you'll come back too. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.